I'm glad we're recording already. This is good.
Yeah, this is very
Yeah.
good. Now it's better now, isn't it?
It's
Yes.
important if the CEO himself, cleans the camera. I think
Yeah.
that's a very
That's the spirit.
good. Yeah, exactly.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome back to a new episode of Mayhem and Masterplans, and this is a first. Andreas, of course, is always in, or most of the time in New York, but I'm also in New York, and Simon is in Athens, Greece. So we're almost all in different locations. So truly international.
Welcome to the world.
Exactly.
Yes. So, how has it been so far in New York City?
New York City has, so we made sure that we would welcome Max with all the weathers that we have. And we started with a torrential downpour to greet him and to, kind of soak him well and make sure that he, after that, just felt a lot of gratitude and happiness about a little bit of sunshine and no further rain.
Very good.
Yeah, I have to say, rain in New York, like pouring rain in New York, it must be one of the worst things to experience in New York, weather-wise. It just sucks. But we went to a very great conference. The conference board, they kind of bring together nearly all and a lot of very very senior leaders in communications from a lot of huge organizations. So for example, this year it was Walmart, the Coca-Cola company, NFL, and a few more, just to name drop a few. But it was really interesting to hear them speak and what they spoke about, and some things not so obvious. Some things are quite obvious. Andreas, what was your takeaway from it?
My takeaway was, so this conference is a super tight 1.5 day thing set up, usually at the end of a week, so that like you said, senior leaders can make a New York trip out of it, maybe add some other business that they might have in town as well, and then bring together like chief communications officers, SVPs, that level of these large corporations. And it's pretty interesting to just see, because they obviously know each other, know of each other. So there's a little bit of, the newer, younger ones are a little bit in awe of the, the celebrities of their profession. That's kind of cool sometimes. But it's this also, because it's somewhat of a, I don't want to say secluded, but it's a little bit of a limited family affair type of thing. There's really open conversations. They don't have to, fear that any of this would then be plastered all over the internet, and so they can have just honest and open conversations about the challenges that they face, and leading communications, often both internal and external, for major corporations with hundreds of thousands of employees across the globe. That's a big ball game. So I enjoyed this conference again. We've for our listeners, this is the third year in a row that we've been there with Hypecast, and hoped that folks would be interested and would kind of bite into our pitch of using audio for corporate communications. There's definitely an uptick in that. I've seen a couple of interesting conversations, both on sidelines but also on stage. They're mentioning audio components, or how they scored big wins when they asked one of their leaders to just basically read and narrate this pamphlet that he had written, rather than just send out an email with 3 pages of PDF or so. I thought that was really good. Obviously, it reinforces what we already had thought. Overall, I enjoyed the vibe. I enjoyed the conversations. It was a good conference, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah.
Nice.
What's your takeaway, Max?
Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, so now you can go. You ahead. I have one question
Do that one first. Do the question first. Do the question first.
Okay, so the speaker of the well-known brands, or it's mostly the leadership, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are C-levels, SVPs usually.
Are they getting paid to come, and are they staying afterwards in the audience, or are they just
That's
just there for the podium or the discussion, or?
yeah. That's a fair question. I don't think they get paid. This is kind of a function of their work. They need to, they represent their brands, their employers. So, I would say lesser known brands might even have to pay to be on stage. These kinds of conferences always have a little bit of a pay to play component to them. That's how they make money. But the real big name brands, they definitely don't have to do that, but they also do not get paid for that, is my guess. Some of them do stay. Some of them have even attended the entire conference, and then at some point just go up on stage, give their speech or have their conversation. Some of these are fireside chats and things like that, and then go back to wherever they were sitting. So you get to mingle with them throughout the process. And in other cases, there were some folks who kind of came in, did their speech, and then they had to go again and, probably attend to other meetings or other activities. So it varies a little bit.
Yeah. I have two takeaways. The one is it was based around what CEOs expect of their chief communication officers, and the number one thing for them was corporate and CEO reputation, which kind of plays into the narrative that we look into corporate thought leadership, where you position certain people from C-level or your management to be like the number one ambassador for your own company, so to speak, so that they're a bit more outgoing and look that they have a good reputation. And how do you build reputation? By putting out the right statements, having the right appearance. Is very people based on the one hand, and then number two was focus on internal comms, to really engage your audiences, and that also played into the second thing that I took away, that was from Bea Paris. She works with the Coca-Cola company, and she said, well, we now focus more, and it becomes more relevant for us to speak with our own employees rather than the media, because the media landscape is more diverse now. It's more clustered, and it's also different because media hype is very fast. So good news, they go up on, they're trending a little bit, and then they disappear, and good news disappear even faster than bad news. But then if you build again, communication through your employees, where you kind of involve them, make them advocates of your own brand, of your own company, that travels through their community much longer and more sustainable than doing a media outreach. And that was quite interesting, and again, that was quite positive towards what we've been saying, and what we've kind of focused on when we talk about audio and podcasts, which are that kind of like medium to build all those things within an organization. So that was really interesting. Of course, DEI as something to be communicated becomes smaller and more internalized. So companies see themselves under scrutiny from the current US government on topics around DEI if they communicate it publicly. So they kind of like scale back on that drastically to the outside world. But a lot of them kind of say like, our values internally don't change, and we're still gonna be a diverse company because it supports our business goals in many ways. So that was interesting to see to a lot of people being like, it felt more political, discussions that were going on, because of course now, at least currently, people are a bit of like, um, they want stability, and now it feels a bit too chaotic, and so that's never good for business. So that's why people are
No.
like we need a stable environment for everything that we do. Otherwise, it's not good. Like nobody wants to
And
do business in that kind of environment, right?
that was common
Yeah.
sense, or have you also heard different opinions there?
No, broadly speaking, that was kind of the general gist.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are individual companies who benefit from the current chaotic environment, but in all honesty, these large multinational corporations, it, they don't. They need stability. Stability is the core of planning and forecasting and investing on a 5 or 10 year timeline and that kind of thing. And if you don't know what's happening the next 2 weeks or 3 months, that becomes incredibly difficult, right? There's also you also have to realize that right now, at the end of this week, we're 4 or 5 weeks into the Trump administration here in the US, and the major stock indices have just, well, not crashed just yet, but they have, lost a significant amount of value just over the last 2 or 3 weeks as these tariff conversations play out, as they make up a new rule one day and then take it back again the next day. I think while we were there, I'm not entirely sure if it was on Thursday or on Friday, but I think on one of those days, um, you know, tariffs for Canada and Mexico were supposed to take effect next week, I think. And then on Thursday or Friday, while we were there, news came out that they just pushed it off yet another month. And so while seemingly somebody in the administration probably thought that would be a good idea to just push it off, what that really meant was ever more whiplash, right? Ever more back and forth, ever more chaos, ever more mayhem, if you will. And so that's just something that businesses don't appreciate. Some businesses can't even tolerate it, which is where resilience come in. That was, I think, another big topic that really came up, that they needed to support resilience of their companies. They needed to support individuals in their companies, their individual employees or associates or whatever they call them, to be more resilient in the face of, change, whatever kind of change that might be. And but it was interesting. The thing about what you mentioned, Max, that it becomes ever more important to communicate to your internal audience, to your employee, to your population, if you will. I thought that was interesting because it overlapped with news from a year or two ago. There was, I think that information, that chart was even shown during one of the talks about how, in general, the population loses ever more trust in mainstream media, and in fact looks towards their companies and towards official company communications to fill that hole, to fill that gap, because they trust that the company has clear motivations, clear goals, right? And if the motivation is just to make money, that's still a clear motivation. And whatever the company communicates down to you, you can at least filter through that lens and understand what that is. Whereas on the wider media landscape, the majority of people just have a sense of not really knowing what someone's or a publication's agenda might be, and therefore just not really knowing what to trust anymore, which is wild.
I think, but that
it comes together, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a really valid point, that you kind of like in times of chaos, and when you feel like I don't know what's happening in media, and they very like they're not very close in proximity to me personally. Same with politicians. Then the one place that gives you stability already by default, but because they are paying you to give you your livelihood, is your company, right? And you would assume they are not screwing you over, because they kind of want you to be, to a certain extent, follow the mission that they're on. So it kind of feels like that is the group that I can relate to, because we're all kind of like running under the same kind of like umbrella having the same kind of focus and purpose. So yeah, companies I think can become even more important, and to see that from a negative perspective. So I think it's kind of something that people look for. And I think that's in Europe that has been a bit like that has been going on a bit longer already, like with those like family owned businesses more than in the US, I guess. But it also can, yeah.
But the clear bit that the wider population loses trust in media outlets and looks to either individual companies, be they their employers or just otherwise companies, as a replacement, that is relatively new, and that really hasn't sunk in Europe yet. In fact, that reminds me of a project that I did recently with a European client of Forward Momentum, and part of the conversation was that the wider population looks towards companies to provide trustworthy information, or for that matter, towards even government offices to provide trustworthy information, and basically cutting out the middleman of a media organization, which would typically gather information and then regurgitate it and put it into context. And when we discussed these findings of these surveys from the US and these numbers, where that has already really taken hold, that was something that hadn't really landed in that area yet in Europe quite as much. They all had a sense of it, but they didn't actually. Either there were no similar surveys yet in Europe, or they didn't think that they were right.
But I would say, like from like by default, it's like because we are like in a like I said, with like family run businesses for like the German Mittelstand, they like and because and Simon and I talked about this before, that in Germany you have huge companies in small cities, so they're not centralized in like all in Berlin, so they're all over the place and like often in very small places, and they kind of like are the center of a community. So like the place where we're from, there's a huge construction company, a lot of people are employed there. So it's kind of like a huge contributing factor of the
also
wealth,
family owned, right? As you mentioned
family owned,
before.
yeah.
That's
And
important.
so and you have a lot of those companies that already take care of their employees, that you already see kind of like, this is like what gives us our stability, security, livelihood. And I think that is like it's maybe not proven yet, but it's kind of something that has been going on for a while, which I think they can learn more. Yeah.
It's really what comes down to trust and authenticity, right? When we speak about authenticity, we mean that we want to be able to trust the sender of that information, and
exactly,
and that we can take that for honest and truthful information. And so that's trust. And if you know the people, if you can see, in your example, the boss of the company walk down the city street, or if you meet them somewhere at in a community function, there's an inherent different level of trust, right? People become tangible
100%.
in a way, and trustworthy that way. Simon, tell us a little bit about Athens. What have you been up to?
Yes, I just arrived, but I will tomorrow attend at the Radio Days Europe in Athens. And especially tomorrow is the podcast summit. And so I will meet their partners,
Potential clients.
I also will transform into a salesman, because we are gonna cooking something in September, and I will pitch.
We could talk about that. It's already out. Like the information is out. So just a quick jump in. So it's going to be Amplify. It's going to be called Amplify at DMX Go. So it's going to be a huge audio and podcast gathering, a summit, so to speak, of like tech companies, software company, like hardware, software, agencies, creators. So we want to build the biggest podcasting and audio event in Europe with that. So yeah, that's what we're going to be
You
pitching
heard
as
it
well.
here first.
You heard it here first. Yes, exactly. So
Nice.
that's what we've been building in the background with a few other partners. So the communication on that started. So yeah. But what are you looking for the most?
So I want to meet the people from Pocket FM. Pocket FM is a startup from India, and I read a lot on TechCrunch about Pocket FM. Yeah, they have hundreds of millions of users, and it's an audiobook company from India, as I said. And they have, I think they have opened the European office. It seems that they have opened it in Germany because the names are quite German, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I want to meet them, and I have questions about the company, and yeah, maybe they also are interested in our Amplified event, and yeah, that would be pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, and then I try to pitch as much as possible our event, and let's see if I can.
So Radio Days is a like a trade fair of both radio like makers, the people who make radio programs and
Yeah,
do
I
that, but
think
also technology and vendors.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how representative the name still is. Say yeah, I think it's not closely coupled to radio technology.
Okay.
I think it's more now. I think so. What I saw from the landing page of the Radio Days Europe. Yeah, so they have also an AI summit. I think there's a lot around content creation. Yeah, content creation in audio, right? And also the partners there. So our partner, our friends from David Systems, I think they are really down to the radio and broadcasting technology. But I think then they have a lot of sponsors and all, and the participants, they are more in from the content creation part. So Pod Squeeze, it's another very small startups. We are a friend of, I would say, from Portugal. I think they have also a small sponsorship there. I think for tomorrow as well, or only for tomorrow. And yeah, I think it will be a lot more around podcasting and internet audio content creation than the good old broadcasting. But let's see. So the guys from David Systems recommended us last year the Radio Days, and I think they called us 2 or 3 times. So if we want to attend, and so they're also the main sponsors. Yeah, and yeah, this year we thought maybe it's a good fit also for acquiring yeah what is it, participants for our Amplify event.
Oh yeah.
Exhibitors, right?
We always wanted to make sure that we're not just talking about our particular business, right?
Sure.
In this
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
So what else is going on? Max,
it's something interesting.
What have you been up to outside of work in New York?
I've went to see a comedy show yesterday. Just walked around a little bit. Today I just had a little walk around and then did the podcast, and I was quite enjoying my hotel room, just like having some downtime and alone time. You know, if you're usually very busy with work and family and everything, so it was kind of like a few hours just like doing nothing during the day, which is very unusual for me to have that time to do this.
So that was always your master plan, to have a no mayhem day?
Yeah, so it sort of felt like it. It was just like, why wouldn't I enjoy this? And then tomorrow I'm gonna hang out with you. I might meet Timo is here from Audio Stack. He will fly in tomorrow, so I might meet him before. I don't know, or he will join us for lunch. Let's see.
Right.
So always people in New York, and I want the other thing. And everybody recommended I go watch a movie. I'm not sure on that one, but then I checked out Broadway,
Which
and
movie?
Broadway's. I don't know. That's why there's probably nothing on. But like then there's Broadway plays, but they're so expensive. So they start at like $75. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that then.
Yeah, that's actually super cheap for Broadway plays. Welcome to New York.
It's affordable, right?
$75 to see like
super cheap.
Super, like, I don't know, man.
Yes. Welcome to New York. Simon, what are you up to in Athens?
So I just saw that I'm very close to the Lycabettus hill, and that is a hill where you have a super nice panorama, and you can more or less look down to the Acropolis. And I think it's really just 10 hours. It looks like that it's here in the garden. So maybe. So here its local time is 11 at night.
But they light it up, so it's quite nice to look at.
Yeah. But I'm not sure if how is the way up the hill, right? So if it's dark, but let's see.
Maybe something for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, or tomorrow morning, but at night it will be maybe quite nice. Yeah, and
Nice.
Besides that, tomorrow is the day, the podcast summit.
Sure.
On Monday is, I think, the normal exhibition, and on Tuesday I go back to Madrid at afternoon or at midday. So there's not really a lot of time left for sightseeing. Let's see. But then, I think seeing the Acropolis and maybe having a good gyros was were my two goals.
There you go.
Let's see.
I just wanted to touch on one thing before we close out on this episode. There was a lot of talk about video podcasting, right, in the last month, and Spotify was pushing really for this video feature, and now there were the first reports after I think a few months now coming out where and they launched a new podcaster like video program where you kind of like get your podcast into their video feed, and then you kind of kill off your RSS feed with that because you have to go into the video feed thing. And now the first podcast has come out saying, well, they are losing money.
Of course.
Because they don't have the dynamic ad insertion in their RSS feed anymore. So some of them reported over $1,000 a month that they are missing in revenue by using the video feature. So they're losing money on it now. And then of course production costs are higher as well. So like I said,
the whole point of podcasting is low effort production, low effort consumption, easy transmission. I mean, I get that, sometimes you want to look at the people who are talking, and I'm happy to smile at everybody who's looking at us right now. Hello. But in all honesty, the whole point of podcasting is, to have a good audio conversation, and to allow people to consume that in a way where they can go hands-free and focus on other things as well. So,
and I think you need
from Spotify's perspective, I totally get that they want to get people into their proprietary feeds and out of publicly available feeds for lock-in.
But it has it has been played a few times like that with Joe Rogan and others where they like just were on Spotify, and then Spotify realized it's too expensive to just have them on our platform, so they just opened that back up to be on everybody's platform and then monetize that one. So I think like Spotify, it feels like Spotify is still like they're the biggest music streaming platform, and it feels like they still to this day trying to figure out what their business model is going to be.
I was just going to say, measured by what? They're still not making money, are they?
No, it was the first time in history. I think
they made a profit, really?
Yeah, it was the
Okay.
first quarter they were profitable in their history, yeah.
All
So they
right.
are starting making money.
Congratulations, Spotify. I'm thoroughly impressed.
It's
But I
it's
mean,
uh,
come
it's
on,
it's 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 it's, uh, it's so crazy, right? That it's kind of like a subsidized like commodity for humans, right? Like
and that's the kind of company that Europe as a whole is proudest of. What the hell? What kind of business approach is that? Come
Yeah,
on.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
It's
it's a
all
bit
going to
crazy.
change, Andrea. It's all going to change. So maybe
How
the
so?
next 4 years, Europe will shine.
I would love to see that. I would love to see more areas shine in the
Yeah.
world. I would love to see more interesting tech and services come out of Africa, Europe, Asia, and to be available to the rest of the world. Latin America, right? Not just North America. I would love that. I really do. And I would love to see competition.
Yeah.
Competition is good. It
And I
benefits
think
us.
what needs to happen for that, and that was one thing that I took away again, and that is always impressive. So at the conference, there was one lady, and she did something that was announced as something weird. What she's going to do is strange, which I felt was a bit unfair. But so she was speaking. So she wrote a book, and to promote the book, she sang songs that she wrote
Singer-songwriter, yeah.
singer-songwriter.
And
So she was doing kind of like a little off-Broadway production, like a cabaret kind of thing on like mentoring on, I don't know, like her being a Midwest girl living in California now, and it had the
and
potential to be really cringe. But again, for the fact that she did it, that she came up with something new as a plug for her, and that is the way of like what America is really good at, like inventing themselves in a new way, designing something that is like super interesting and relevant and very marketing driven. And if the
Mm.
rest of the world doesn't learn how to do that, you will always be, even if you have the better product, you will always be second to what they produce in the US because they're so good at entertainment and marketing.
I actually wanna just make sure that, I mean, today, as we're recording, this is actually International Women's Day. So,
Yeah.
let's give a shout out to her.
Oh no, 100%.
This was
Yeah.
Mary Mooney of Prologis, a communications professional, and she, um, did, probably have a little bit of, I don't know if she had stage fright or not. She didn't look like it. She seemed to have done this before, and she seemed to be very confident and knew what she was doing there. But in all honesty, it takes something to step up in front of on a stage in front of your peers and do something that is just out of the ordinary and that is just you know, yeah, that some people might perceive as weird or strange or unexpected. And I, for one, applaud her for that. I think she did that really well. It
Yeah.
came
And
across
she
very nicely.
performed a song about corporate
3
communications, or
songs. 3 songs that are part of. I didn't fully get the concept. I don't know if she had like a
No, I think she
longer
want yeah, she's
performance or
planning.
something, but
I think she's planning on having like a musical about the
mm.
corporate world,
okay.
which is a
the
cool
the
idea
nice thing
again.
was so the songs, she said singer-songwriter, so I assume she wrote them all by herself. But the songs were also different. They were not very samey, right? One was, a very typical song with verses and choruses. The other one was really more of a kind of music-supported narrative. It was good. It was impressive. I thought it was
Yeah,
really cool that she did that, and it was
100%.
also nicely kind of towards the end of the first day. So kudos to her
Yep.
and happy International Women's Day to everybody else.
Exactly. Happy International Women's Day. And then to end the show for today, I want to hear what songs you've been listening to. What is the last song you listened to?
I actually so my friend Noelle and her band Nungara released a new video yesterday for their song North Star, and I didn't have a chance to actually tune into their kind of record release party or video release party yesterday because we were at the conference. And so I caught up on that. So the last song that I saw and listened to before this was North Star by Nungara.
Nice. Shout out to them, Simon.
Yeah, so my last song I listened to was on my mobile, but my Spotify on this Mac says my last recently played song was 7 Steps, super simple songs for Noodles and Pals, and it's children, a song for children's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like this.
That's going to be quite so. For everybody who's kind of listening through all our 3 songs one by one, that's going to be quite.
But I can really recommend the playlist or the artist or the playlist. It's super simple songs. It's a playlist of English songs for kids, but they're quite cool. And nice. I like the voices, the male voice and the female voice.
And are you cool. listening to this, or are your kids listening to this?
I would say we both. So I'm always happy.
Okay. Were they in the room? Like, were they in the room while that song was playing? Were they in the room, or was it just you?
Like, in the car.
Okay. Just to make sure,
you, Max?
I listened to "Made to Parade" by Queens of the Stone Age off their last album, In Times New Roman. One of my all-time favorite bands that I didn't know of. I told that story many times before. Queens of the Stone Age is a band that kind of like snuck into my life, and then it's been becoming my one of my all-time favorite bands. The way they make music is just very phenomenal. I like them. So now it's time to explore Athens, New York. Andreas goes back to doing accounting work, which also seems to be a lot of fun. Well, thank you guys for this episode of Mayhem and Masterplans. Until next week, and then more from the Radio Days. Then it's going to be Simon telling us all about what's happening at Radio Days Athens.
Simon, take notes, and tell us all about it next week.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye.